All right, good morning, everyone. Give me 1 second to finish setting up here. And we should be about ready to go. All right. How's everyone doing today? Thank you, Joseph, for joining. We're going to get started here in just a second. So this is actually a little bit of a different change for me in that not only am I doing the demo, but I'm also running the stream itself. Usually our producer, Jacob, sets up all the streaming stuff, so typically I just have to show up, get my stuff set up, and go from there. But today I'm actually handling the stream myself, so something new for me. Always good to learn something. I've actually been learning how to do video producing over the past couple weeks, which is a completely new category for me. So if anything screws up in today's stream, I can't blame anyone else. It'll totally fall on me. So hey, fun times, good learning experience, and we'll kind of see how it goes. We'll start. Yeah, I can't talk. We'll start. We'll wait about one other moment just to see if anyone else wants to jump on, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into it. It's going to be a really fun topic today, in that we have had requests from a number of people, both on our live streams and in our Slack channel and in other places as well, from people wanting to see more stuff on Google Stackdriver. And there's actually, when we talk about Stackdriver, it's actually a pretty large suite of tools, so there isn't just a Stackdriver and that's it. Stackdriver actually used to be a separate independent company till about 2015, 2016, I think, when at the time it was a company that would let you monitor your AWS workloads. So basically anything happening in AWS, you could use Stackdriver to get logs, monitor, do all sorts of, monitoring things from there. When Google acquired it in about 2016 or so, it became part of Google Cloud. And at that time, you were able to both within Google Cloud, within Stackdriver, able to monitor natively both Google Cloud stuff and AWS stuff at the same time. And I think they're starting to introduce a little bit of Azure monitoring as well. I'm not completely familiar with that, but it's basically a multi-cloud monitoring solution that's built natively into Google Cloud. Pretty cool stuff. It's actually a suite of products. So you have Stackdriver Logging, which takes logs of pretty much everything that happens within your Google Cloud environment. Excuse me. You have Stackdriver Monitoring, which you're going to go over today, which monitors everything in your Google Cloud and AWS environments. And you also have some application-specific tools called Stackdriver Trace, Error Reporting, and Debugger. That lets you basically trace performance, debug, and look at errors within your application as well. And each of those could be like a big topic in and of itself. And they have a brand new tool, which I must confess I haven't really looked at it that closely, called Stackdriver, if I can find it, Profiler, which is another application-focused service that I'm going to be remiss here and state that I haven't really worked with it that much, but it just gives you some more insight into your applications, basically helping it run at peak efficiency. Again, I haven't really played with it that much myself, so I am unfortunately not that much of an expert in that new service itself. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let me check one other thing here real quick before we get going. Okay, looks good. Like I said, I'm also managing the stream today, so this is new territory for me, which is awesome. But it just means more stuff to take a look at. All right, so let's just go ahead and we're going to jump in here in just a second with the actual demo. Question for you, though, that I'd like to get your input on as far as kind of what we're going to be doing within these live streams. So, like I mentioned before, this is our third week of doing these live streams. Very new territory for us. Gotten some really good feedback. Got a question for you, though. So for the demos I've done so far, what you're seeing me doing here is usually the result of doing some dry runs where I'm polishing the process, making it fit into a 45-minute-ish live stream So you don't see me fumbling and stumbling around, and we can pretty consistent moving on from one thing to the other. The flip side of that is that as I've mentioned before, one of the themes I want to go with these streams is not only do something live, but also go over the whole learning process, which means that when you see my demo, I've already gone through the learning process, ironing out all those wrinkles and bumps, and pretty much seeing a polished version. Would there be any interest, and go ahead and type in chat as well, for not every week, but maybe like once in a while, I actually go into a demo basically cold turkey, where I haven't had a chance to polish it up, so it's slick from one thing to the other, and basically watch me go through the learning process where I have to figure something out almost cold turkey. And that would be kind of the process where I am basically stumbling and bumbling through something, trying stuff out, working through error messages, working through options that don't work right. Not to show how awesome I am at working at something, because it definitely won't be, but just kind of going through the process of what I'm doing to take something new to me and learn it and figure it out, kind of like watching me do the learning process live. Now, it'd be kind of a rough demo because I would be figuring it out. We wouldn't be able to probably do as much at once because, hey, I'm figuring something out. Type in chat if that is something interesting to you. If not, that's fine as well. Just trying to keep it fresh, try to mix it up a little bit, and just kind of see what people want to do. And of course, there's a little bit of a stream delay, so I won't be able to see chat for about 30 seconds. But just kind of let me know what your thoughts are on that. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to comment on that, just let me know. And also, as always, comment on what you may want to see for live demos, because we get these suggestions from you. Otherwise, you have to have me make something up, which, may or may not be interesting to you, so that's that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. We have had a number of requests to go over Stackdriver Monitoring, which, if we stick with our theme of describing everything in memes, if I can bring it up here, Stackdriver Monitoring lets you monitor all the things. The description is in the name. You're monitoring pretty much everything going on in your Google Cloud environment, and also maybe your AWS environment as well. So what's the performance of my application? Is my application up or down? If I'm running applications from a virtual machine, what's the CPU utilization? Is it completely overloaded right now? Do I not have enough CPU and compute on it? Stuff like that. And there's also other aspects in which, if something does go down, because you're just not going to stare at dashboards all day, you want to be alerted via a number of alerting methods that, hey, our CPU is overloaded, or the app is down, or the website is down, or, let me know if something I need to pay attention to so I can go take a look at that and deal with it then. Stackdriver Monitoring is able to handle all of that. I am getting some input. Yeah, okay. So I'm getting some feedback about the learning process of stumbling and bumbling through something. So you know what? I may pick a topic here, maybe not next week, but sometime within the next few weeks, where I'm going into something cold turkey. It could be ugly. I mean, you're going to basically see me look at documentation and, maybe fail miserably a few times. But hey, that's learning, and that's really one of the main themes I go for. So we'll definitely check that out. If you have any other feedback on that, let me know as well. Anyway, enough memeing, enough me talking about next week. Let's go monitor some stuff. Monitor all the things. I don't even know what that meme's supposed to be, by the way. Is that a broom they're holding? Anyway, so Stackdriver Monitoring. Like I said, monitor all the things. Stackdriver Monitoring is kind of interesting in that it almost acts as a completely separate product from the rest of Google Cloud, which kind of makes sense because it was a third-party product. So a few best practices to keep in mind is when you're doing Stackdriver Monitoring, it's usually a good idea to have a completely separate project on Google Cloud just for your monitoring account. And within that monitoring project, you can actually monitor any of your other projects as well. I know when you're first jumping into it, you're like, hey, let's get our monitoring project, deploying an application within the same project. The problem with that, though, is that, okay, maybe there's a project that you don't want to monitor anymore due to cost reasons, and we'll talk about pricing here in just a second. It's a lot harder to separate your application from your Stackdriver monitoring project than it is just to go into your Stackdriver settings and then just remove the completely separate project your application is sitting in. Excuse me. It basically just makes it a lot more modular in that you can control what you're monitoring and what you're not monitoring across all your different projects within Google Cloud. Cool. Let's go ahead and jump into it. This is going to be a very different demo, and there's going to be very little command line compared to our previous outings. It's going to be a bunch of web GUIs. I already have some stuff pre-set up, but we'll go ahead and reset them up again, and it's going to be fun. So in here, I have a project called PW Monitoring, which is, of course, my Stackdriver Monitoring project. The only thing in this project is my Stackdriver account. I have no other resources in here. What I'm going to be monitoring, though, is several applications in our PW hands-on project, which is a separate one, but I'm going to monitor this project from our monitoring project and do different stuff within there. To get Stackdriver Monitoring, we'll go to our top left menu, scroll down to Stackdriver, and then click on Monitoring. That'll open up in a separate window, and the UI is completely different compared to the rest of Google Cloud. And it actually says Stackdriver in the top left here, and that'll load here in a second. Now, what we're not doing for the purpose, in the interest of live demos, is we're not going through the initial setup process just because we are trying to keep this in a timely manner, even though we're 12 minutes in already. But when you do set up for the first time, you actually have to set up an account, even though you're already in a Google Cloud account separately. There used to be a Stackdriver Premium option, which had additional features. That actually changed in July, which was last month, to a pure consumption-based model. So there is no free version or premium version. It's just all one version, but like 99% of it is still free. So don't really worry about that too much. Okay, so again, Stackdriver Monitoring. We are monitoring all the things, and what we are going to do is we are going to monitor a few things in our hands-on project. Now, in our hands-on project, we have a few resources. We have two Compute Engine instances, and we have an App Engine application as well. If we go to Compute Engine, we have one server we're going to use just for generating load to a website. We have another one here called Stress Test. It's running a default Nginx server page. Welcome to Nginx. Basically the default's nothing too complex there. We don't need to be too complex. And we also have an App Engine app within the same project. If you've taken our Google Cloud Part 1 course, we have a little bookshelf project. It's the same bookshelf project we've made through there. You can add a book, add cover art, stuff like that. Cool. So within Stackdriver, we're just going to basically do a tour of all the different features in here. And then we're going to generate load, create alerts, break stuff from there. So it's going to be a little bit all over the place, but there's really a lot in here. In fact, we could actually make a whole course on Stackdriver Monitoring if we wanted to, maybe like a 2-hour quick one. Maybe we'll do that someday, but we'll try to work in what we can here. Okay, so a couple different options I want to look at within Stackdriver Monitoring is, again, part of the nickel tour. If you wanted to monitor multiple accounts, you could go to Account Settings, and within here, we have other projects that we can add or remove. These are the other projects within this Google Cloud organization. So again, from within one project, we can monitor other projects as well. And we're going to be looking at specifically the hands-on project here. And we have all the other projects just because we can do that. And if we want to remove those, we didn't want to pay for monitoring for a particular project's apps, we could always remove it from there as well. Another important item within the settings is for anything with a VM on Compute or Kubernetes engine, there is an optional but possibly recommended agent, so a Stackdriver agent you can install, and that gives you the exact instructions from there. Basically, you copy and paste those 2 lines, and that will start the monitoring agent, which we're going to talk more about that here in just a moment. So let's go back to our monitoring overview menu. This is basically your main dashboard that you can use to monitor all the things, hold the broom up and all that. And I already have a few things pre-populated in here. I'm monitoring the CPU usage for our 2 Compute Engine VMs called Create, Load, and Stress Test. We are also monitoring our App Engine instance as well, which is that bookshelf project there. And we have a couple specific metrics. Number one, we're looking at CPU usage across both of them. Right now, it's very low on both of our VMs. And our App Engine instance is only running a single instance at the moment. And if we leave it alone, it'll eventually scale back down to 0, which App Engine standard environment is able to do that. So let's just do some exploring here. We're not going to be able to take a close look at everything within the context of a live stream, but I do want to at least go over the basics. One really neat menu that's actually been improved over the last 6 months as far as what you can do is the resources menu here. And once it gets done loading, it'll actually automatically detect everything within your monitored projects that you can take a closer look at. In fact, there we go. We can look at custom metrics, but it's also automatically detecting, hey, what's in your projects? Let's put them up here so you can go ahead and take a look. So for instance, it automatically detected, hey, you have some instances up in one of your monitored projects. You can click on that, and here are all the current running instances within all your projects, which in this case is only 2. And we have our create, load, and stress test here. We could click on one of those and get a closer look at events. I already had some alerts preset up for some of our dry runs. We'll take a look at those later. And you have a variety of statistics from there. And we also have the agent installed on our stress test machine as well. And you can do that for App Engine. Now, of course, I don't have a specific VM for App Engine because that's not how App Engine works. Google likes to say it was serverless before serverless was cool. And I have a variety of stats from there. Instance count, CPU usage. And that will scale up and down as when we put some load on it here in a little bit. Now, something kind of interesting here. I'm looking in our automatically detected resources, and I'm seeing block storage volumes. I wonder what this is. Oh, this is actually pretty significant, and I'm glad I ran across this. So we just did our data engineer course released last month, and the demo machines I set up, I deleted when I was done with them, but it looks like the disks for those are still around. It must have been set to a no delete option, and I just forgot about them. So I actually have about 800 gigabytes of disk space I'm being charged for right now. And Stackdriver was nice enough to say, hey, you have some disks out there. You may want to go ahead and pay attention to that. And you can see cloud storage buckets across your organization's security groups. I have a cloud pub subtopic up in one of my projects as well, which is kind of idle right now, which means I'm not being charged for it. But it's a real good look at the snapshot of resources across your organization. If we're going to skip alerting and uptime checks for now, we're going to come back to that here in a little bit. If we go down to groups, this is also very useful from an organization and monitoring and looking at everything perspective, in that you can take groups of stuff and really kind of automatically group them together. So if you want to look at everything within a project, if you want to look at snapshots of everything with a particular network tag, maybe you want to look at a group every asset with an HTTP network tag for firewall rules, you can group it by there. So if we were to create a new group, we can just call it test project group. Different kind of filters you can apply to it. We can group things by name, security groups, cloud account projects. So this will be looking specifically across grouping everything by project, grouping everything by region, App Engine apps, App Engine service, tag would be network tag. Let's say, for example, I want to group everything all in one shot, kind of do the piece together for you within my hands-on one project. I can save that group. And from here, I can see everything going on within my hands-on project. I have my 2 instances. I have my App Engine application. I got my Cloud Pub subtopic. I got my disk storage volumes, any uptime checks, events. And I can also filter by time frame as well. Different metrics, different charts. I can add a chart. You can do a lot here, basically grouping by projects or whatever else to put all your resources in one place to, again, monitor all the things. Also, you can create dashboards. I already had one pre-created if we want to take a quick look at that. These are dashboards that, it's kind of like groups, but you basically manually piece it together yourself, and you can kind of mix and match from one over to the other. I have CPU utilization for my 2 instances. I have Nginx connections, which require installing the Stackdriver agent on one of your VMs, which we'll demonstrate here in just a little bit as well. And we have some metrics for our App Engine application as well. And you can add more charts as well from there. There is really a ton of different stuff you can add into there. for, again, having a good view of what's going on within all of your different resources. Again, the theme here is monitor everything, get a good visual of everything that's happening within your Google Cloud environment. And if we went back to our monitoring overview, it's just basically your initial dashboard for just a snapshot of everything that's going on. You notice we have some test events I made yesterday about stuff I broke on purpose and then got notified on that. And it gives you a good visual of everything going on from there. So let's just go ahead and get into the real meat of it now, in which we are going to create uptime checks, alerts, and find ways to notify ourselves if something is going wrong in our environment that we would definitely want to be informed about. Let me actually first go in and delete my existing alerts just to clean up here a little bit. Wanted to make sure those worked yesterday. Again, some of the streamlining before I went on live. And let's get into it. So why is this important? This is where if something goes down, you have a customer-facing web application or some sort of internal server, or maybe you're hosting a Microsoft Active Directory server within Google Cloud. If it's getting overloaded on CPU, if you're getting low on memory, if it's down, if you're getting way more requests to your website than you should be going, you want to be notified of it. And you're not going to be staring at your dashboards 24/7 if you have a condition that you want to be alerted on, such as something going down or getting overloaded. You want it to be able to notify you so you know something is up. And then once you're notified, you can then jump into Stackdriver and take a closer look. That is what we're going to go over right now. And kind of basically how it works is there's two main pieces. Number one, you want to create a check of some sort, whether it is an uptime check, hey, is the site up or down, or some other monitor such as, hey, what's my CPU usage, what's my memory usage? And then you want to create an alert where if your check goes over a certain threshold or if the site is down, you want to be alerted about that so you can go ahead and be notified and take action. Now, this is really where the main meat and potatoes of what people actually care about with Stackdriver monitoring come into play. So let's jump into that. We are going to, again, use our resources we have here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to run an uptime check, not really an uptime check, but just a check to monitor the CPU load of our Nginx application called Stress Test here, and then we're going to stress it and see if it will go ahead and alert us. So for that, I'm going to actually go ahead and create an uptime check. Create an uptime check here. And actually, we don't want to do an uptime check. We want to create an alert because of a specific type of alert we want to do. Going to add a condition. We have a number of options here. We have a new feature called metric threshold or rate change. This is where maybe if your CPU is over 80% for 5 minutes or something close like that, you can do that. Uptime check is, hey, is the site down? If it's down for more than 2 minutes, let me know. And process health is where we start going into the Stackdriver agent, such as, how many Nginx connections am I getting over a certain threshold for a certain period of time. For the first thing we're going to do for our Nginx compute engine server is we want to be alerted if our CPU utilization is over 80% for more than a minute. Very small time window just for demonstration purposes. It is looking right now. We'll give it a second to refresh itself. Maybe I'll just go ahead and type in it's in a loading screen. Let me go ahead and refresh here real quick. There we go. Actually, it popped up right when I hit refresh. Of course. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, finish real quick at that time. We want to monitor our CPU utilization. If I mouse over, I want the one for percentage. Okay, CPU uses percent. Fraction of allocated. Okay, I think this is the one we want right here. I'm going to go ahead and filter. We're going to filter by instance name. and we have our pre-detected choices. We're going to go ahead and filter by stress test. So this is the current live snapshot of our stress test server. Right now we're at about like 0.17%. It's basically just sitting idle right here. Group by defaults are fine. I'm not going to mess anything with that. We can do some different aggregation sorts as well. Those are all great. Next important part is configuration. So we want it to trigger an alert to us if our CPU utilization is over 80% for a minute. Basically, it's being maxed out for, well, longer than it should be. So default here is fine. Anytime series violates, condition is above. We're going to say 80%. And we're going to say for any period longer than a minute. Again, right now we're idle. Kind of shows you your threshold line here. That looks pretty good right there. So create our condition, 80% CPU utilization for more than a minute for our stress test instance. Now we want to be notified where if that condition is met, hey, let me know. Add notification. A number of notification options. We can notify by email, the Google Cloud Console mobile app. These advanced options used to be part of the premium package, which is now available to everyone now. So you can go do that. You can do SMS. If you have a Slack channel, you can get a Slack notification. Quite a number of options there. I'm going to go with email. I'm going to type in my demo email address of admin at, did I spell that right? Professional. I am blanking. Yeah, how do you spell professional? Learn to spell, Matt. 1L. Okay, I knew that did not look right. Hooked on phonics. Work for me. Professionalwireless.net. So when this condition is met, it will email me. If you had a team of people being set to, you can add documentation of, hey, if this happens, here's some instructions for you. I'm going to say CPU is on fire. Fix it. And we need to give this policy a name. We'll do CPU overload. Okay, so we have our alerting policy up right now. So if our Nginx instance has greater CPU utilization than 80% for more than a minute, it's going to let me know, hey, your computer's about to blow up, go fix it. Or maybe you want to know. So the next thing we need to do is we need to up our CPU utilization for more than a minute to go ahead and trigger that condition. Now, I have our SSH window up for the stress test already. Let me go find it. I saw an application called, I think it's just called Stress Test. Where is it at? Let me go to my text pad here and find my command. I take copious notes because my short-term memory is not very good. So I'm going to put in a command here, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically artificially peg our CPU out for 50 minutes or 3,000 seconds here. That's going to basically max our CPU out as high as it'll go pretty much instantly. So now what we got to do is we got to wait about a minute, and if I did everything right, I'm going to get an email on my professional wireless account saying, hey, your CPU is blowing up. Did I spell professional incorrectly? I'll double check that. Thank you for that. Let me actually double check that real quick. Maybe the domain name is incorrect. That'd be hilarious. Check our learning policy there real quick. We're going to edit that. All right, we'll save that even though it's already in process. So I created this this demo domain we use for all of our lessons. Did I misspell professional the entire time? That would be hilarious if that was the case. Oh well. It's a demo account, so it's a demo account. Okay, so while we are waiting for our alert to come into place, let's go to our dashboards we have set up. And we have our VM instance CPU utilization. Now we're not creating alerts from this, but this is basically our live look at our CPU utilization, and this should be automatically refreshing. We should see one of these spike way up here in about a minute. It's like maybe like a little bit of a delay before that pops on up. So we're just going to go ahead and wait a moment and see if that pops on up there. This is going to be the awkward waiting period while we're waiting for our dashboards to check up with that. Yes, I do need a spell check when I'm creating domain names. Thank you very much. The dashboards usually aren't in completely real time. There's about maybe like a minute or two delay, so they should catch up here in just a moment. And yeah, just kind of awkwardly waiting here. While we are waiting, how's everyone? Oh, actually, got a question for the audience while we're kind of in the waiting period. So I'm big on learning here. This is all about learning new things, learning to do stuff myself. What's something new that you have learned in the past week that you didn't know before? That's actually pretty interesting to you. Myself, I'm learning how to do video production and stuff, which is a very new territory for me. I'm doing the weekly Google Cloud updates. Yep, that just spiked up there. And also doing the live streams like this. So new territory for me. I've always been kind of a techie guy, so maybe I can put video production on my resume. Actually, AJ, if it'll stay above 80%, it'll only send me a separate, a single email over that period. I'll get an additional notification once it goes below 80%, basically once we end the stress test. Once below there again, then if it goes back up again sustained, it'll alert again. In reality, you probably wouldn't want to do a 1 minute violation, just to kind of give you some wiggle room, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. We're just doing the shortest possible time period, so, we're not waiting around for 5 minutes with nothing to do. Are we live updating here? Here we go. Auto refresh. That should be... We'll give that a second. Let's go back to our dashboards here and see if those have caught up. There we go. That 1.0 is basically 100%. Just multiply everything by 100, and we see our server getting its CPU maxed out pretty good. Let's wait about another minute. I'm going to go ahead and log into the email account. Those are from yesterday. We can ignore those. On my test runs, I'm just going to go ahead and mark them as red. And we'll wait for another minute or so to see, let that minute period pass. The notification was pretty immediate after it hit that threshold in my experience. So we'll wait for it to come across. So yeah, what new stuff have you learned the past week, either through Linux Academy or just kind of on your own through your job, that you actually enjoy learning? All right, it's still creeping on up there. If it doesn't come across here quickly, we have the ones from yesterday for my dry run we can use just kind of as a demo. Again, this is where we get kind of some of the lag time for waiting for the threshold to be met and then waiting for the alert to come across. Not really live demo friendly. But if it was working correctly, I have one from yesterday that's exactly the same. An alert come across saying CPU utilization for stress tests on your project. And I triggered the alert twice yesterday just for demonstration purposes. Get a big red letters, incident started. Here's where the incident is. And then when it's resolved, your threshold goes below whatever your threshold is that you meet, saying, hey, it's been resolved. When I tested again yesterday, a few hours later, did I have documentation for this one? I don't think I did. Incident started, incident stopped, and I already deleted that alerting policy, but you could view the incident in Stackdriver Monitoring itself, and if it's still ongoing and you need to go ahead and resolve it, you could resolve it from there. Hopefully in about just another minute, we will have our email coming across as this is still continuing to get pegged out. Memory pages can be set to huge pages with a size of up to 1 gigabyte. Yeah, that'd be kind of hard to load in a web browser. So hey, now you know. Let's see. Lewis is learning functional programming and creating Node.js Lambda functions. Oh, cool. That's on AWS, I take it. Pretty cool. Someone's learning about cryptocurrency, doing all the Bitcoin stuff. Very nice. I'm actually, gosh, I think I've been kind of slacking last week, but I've been diving into Google Cloud Deployment Manager for creating templates, which we've actually gotten some requests to do a demo on. So I think we may do Deployment Manager next week, which will force me, probably a good thing, to jump back into it more. So I'm trying to dive in on that, so that way we can start creating some really cool Google Labs for you once we get those up and running. Dope coins for the win. Nice. Okay, that line's going across a little bit more. Let's see if we have... Hey, we got a new email. And there's our alert. Awesome. So, brand new alert. Our CPU's been pegged at 100% for more than a minute. Incident has started. Documentation, CPU's on fire. Better fix it. I can Control-C to fix it pretty easy on there. Full instructions there. If we want to view our incident, we can click on View Incident. Incident. I'm butchering that word there. Policy violation. CPU overload. Is our chart going to catch up? It will here eventually. I can get more information from here. I can acknowledge the incident saying, yes, I am on the case. I am working on it right now. That basically, if you're on a team of people where there's multiple people who get that alert, they know that, hey, someone picked it up. And then if we want to resolve the incident, which if I cycle through here, if I just hit Control-C, that stops the CPU overload, and I'll drop back down. And after about another minute or so, another email will show up within the same string saying incident resolved because it dipped down back to about 0% for more than a minute. I'm not going to sit here and awkwardly stare at it, waiting for it to pop up, for demo purposes. So we'll move on from there. Cool. So that's a first demo of alerting in a nutshell. Our CPU is overloaded. I want to know about this. I want to be notified by email, SMS, Slack channel, notify a team of people. If you had a team, more than likely you want to have a group email account, maybe through a Google group called, troubleshooting at professionalwireless.net or whatever. So it would go to the group email account. Everyone on the group gets it. Someone jumps on it, acknowledges it, troubleshoots it, and then it'll either resolve itself once the threshold is fixed, or I believe, can you mark it as resolved? I don't think you can. I think you have to actually resolve it below the alerting threshold amount before it marks itself as resolved from there. If we go back to our monitoring overview, we also have our alerts here. This is one that just happened. Again, dashboard, all your events. If you went to groups, you could also have events. Probably need to, okay, it's not automatically adding the event there. Maybe an uptime check. I may have kind of messed that one up. May have to be added on there from as well. So yeah, have a timeline of events, see what happened. If you're on a team of people, even if it's events that you weren't specifically working on, you'd have kind of basically a history of there, so you know what's going on in your environment. Cool. Let's go ahead and do one more. So that'll put us right at the 45-minute mark. Let's go ahead and stress out our App Engine application. Now, we really can't measure CPU utilization on App Engine because it's serverless, but how it works is that when we stress it, it's going to very quickly scale up, creating additional compute engine instances for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a metric where if our App Engine app creates more than 20 instances for scalability, it'll send us a new alert for that. Now, what's kind of funny is I initially tried to have it measure latency, but the problem, that's not really a problem, was that since App Engine standard environment scales so quickly, when I basically did a stress test on the app, it would be like a little tiny spike of latency, then it immediately would dip right back down to nothing as it pretty much created 100 new instances within a minute to pretty much absorb that load almost instantly, which is why App Engine standard environment is pretty darn cool thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new alert. Going to create a new condition. We're going to go threshold again. If we want just to see if the app was running or not, we could do an uptime check from there. This is a little bit more interesting for demo purposes. We'll look at the uptime one here in just a second, assuming we're not running too long on time. And let's see, we want to do, I believe, instance count. Instance count, which is what our App Engine environment is going to do, would automatically found our App Engine one there. We could filter. We only have one App Engine app running, so pretty easy to find, so I'm not going to worry about the filter from there. The condition is going to trigger if we are above 20 instances for a period of greater than a minute. Right now we're at basically 1. Save condition. Going to do a new notification. We'll do email again. I'm going to paste in my email address because, again, I can't spell. Documentation. It's going to say we're popular because our app is getting a lot of traffic. And we're going to name it App Engine Instance Count. Okay, so if our App Engine environment scales up to more than 20 instances for more than a minute, we are going to get a new alert like that. Let's just go ahead and scale up our traffic. Within our hands-on compute engine environment, we have a compute engine instance called create load. Let me see if I can find that. There we go. And we're using an application called Apache Bench, which comes with the Apache suite of products. What we're going to do is we are going to send 1,000 requests per second with 10 million requests total to our App Engine address, which lets me fix that. Go to App Engine, get my URL, pull this back over. See if I did that correct. And we are now going to send, if I'm interpreting that correctly, 1,000 requests per second to our Bookshelf app. And we are going to sit here awkwardly and see what happens. So again, there will be a little bit of a delay if we go into our Instances tab on our App Engine page and occasionally refresh. We should see this number spike from 1 to really high numbers here within, about a minute or so. I'll keep hitting refresh here. We can also go to our dashboard again. And we already have a dashboard called Instance Count for PW Hands-On 1, which is for the same app. This is the same menu as here. In fact, they're actually both pulling from the same place. Auto refresh is turned on. So we'll give it a minute, wait for the refresh to catch up, and we should see our instance count going up really quickly. And while we're waiting, I'm going to look at comments. Demo on building blockchain technologies on Google Cloud. That is an interesting topic. I would definitely have to do so. Okay, so I've never actually worked with blockchain at all. That's something that's new to me. So I like the idea. I don't know if it would fit in the context of a demo. I will look into it, though, so definitely request it. And yeah, we may try to alternate beginner and advanced level topics, kind of depending on what our audience likes to see. Oh, pricing. Yes, thank you. Okay, so before last month, there was a Stackdriver free version and a Stackdriver premium. In fact, let me bring up the page here just so I'm not speaking from memory, which never goes well. Where you had a free account where, you could do... You couldn't use a Stackdriver agent, and you didn't have like the advanced alerting options outside of email and the console app. That went away. So it basically went to everything's the same, and the more you use the agent outside of free allotments, you're just charged regardless. There's no like automatically free or automatically paid version. This is the effective date of July 1st. So this is the current stuff. Logs are mostly free. Log is basically everything going on within your Google Cloud environment. I believe that admin audit logs, which is the default option that you can't turn off, which is activity of creating assets, who accesses what, those are free. If you do app logging, which is an opt-in option for lack of a better term, there's some cost with that. Monitoring data, all Google Cloud metrics. So the defaults we're doing here, such as instance count, and CPU utilization, stuff like that's always free all the time. But if you monitor stuff using the Stackdriver agent, which getting a little long, but may demonstrate that real quick, you are charged based on how many log files or monitoring data is done by the agent itself. Basically, unless you have a really heavy-duty application that gets tons and tons of traffic, that's generating tons of logs, it's usually going to be free all the time. You pretty much have to be at enterprise level or viral startup level before you start getting charged for your monitoring metrics here. It may give different scenarios where this is where you actually be charged. Let's look at, here we go, monitoring details. So all Google Cloud metrics, the one that don't require the logging agent to be installed, those are free all the time, unlimited. Agent metrics, AWS metrics, you have to pay for AWS if you're natively monitoring your AWS environment. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into the AWS side today for time purposes. You're charged based on those allotments after 150 megabytes per month. And API usage, read and writes, those are your pricing breakdowns from there as well. And it gives examples. You got a pricing calculator. If you just do a Google search for Stackdriver pricing, you can go into all the different details from there. So yeah, basically, you get charged for what you use outside of the default Google Cloud metrics. And I believe you have to be a pretty heavy user to actually get charged for stuff. So I hope that answers your question. I like the demo ideas here. To definitely keep those coming, go to that link that Eli posted and recommend them there. And we're also keeping a collection as well. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to our App Engine instance here and refresh. There we go. That hasn't caught up yet for the chart, but we are at 46 instances being spun up right now, serving traffic from our benchmarking. And that should go up here a little bit more within the next minute or so. If I hit refresh again, it's not going up yet. Let's go to our monitor. Okay, that's showing us we're above the 60 instance mark. Really cool thing about Stackdriver Standard is that I say it has explosive scaling. So we're actually went from 0 to 70-ish instances all serving traffic to our website now, which I think is actually pretty cool. Do we have a new email? Yes, we do. CP utilization for the new one just came across. Actually, that may be for the, okay, that's for the CP utilization. We didn't get the alert yet for the App Engine one, which, for the purpose of time, we'll go to the one that's previous from yesterday. It would look kind of like this one. It had the exact same instance count. I just called it latency, even though it wasn't latency. I misnamed that one. And our count was for instance count going above 20 for over a minute. That's some bossy documentation here. App was running slowly. Go figure out why. Once it dipped beneath 20 instances, basically I stopped the benchmark test. It just scaled back down to 0 again. It would resolve itself, unless we're out of order. It doesn't have the resolution notice, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it doesn't do that for App Engine. Oh, there we go. And I may have demo failed there. Okay, here's a live one that just came across just now. So we've had more than 20 instance count in our App Engine Standard environment for greater than a minute. Policy documentation. Hey, we're popular. In real life, it'd say, hey, go look at this and go fix it. We can view the incident. Acknowledge it. Again, you wouldn't really monitor instance count because it's what it's supposed to be doing, but it just had to do something that I could easily measure, and we could go from there. And then once I quit my benchmarking test, I'll Control-C out on that. App Engine will scale back down to 0 again, and the alert will go away. Cool. So that's really kind of a nickel tour of all the different neat things you can do in Stackdriver Monitoring. The last thing I want to do, I know we're running a little bit long here, is I want to demonstrate using the Stackdriver logging agent, which actually lets you monitor stuff within applications within your different compute engine environments like Nginx, Apache, Tomcat, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that one real quick. Let me bring up my stress test instance. Now, it already has the agent installed when I was doing a dry run. We'll go ahead and go through the motions again. And this is basically an application you install on the machine itself, which lets you monitor applications, not just stuff like CPU utilization, memory count. Basically gives you even more detailed information about apps on a more granular level. To install the agent, you just go to Agent here, and you basically just run these commands. Let me go ahead and run our curl command, which will download our script file. And then we need to run the script. Yoink. That runs a script, starting installation of Stackdriver client. And that completes pretty quickly. It's already done. And what that'll let me do is I can check information such as within our dashboard, we already had one set up, I believe, where I was actually able to monitor not just traffic and CPU utilization, but actual connections with our Nginx application, which is what our very, very simple website is running on. And if I were to stress test this again using that same Apache bench, but this time pointing toward our stress test server, we could actually see the Nginx connections. Those would spike up to a very high level. And we could also create additional utilization threshold alerts like what we had with the stress test initially, where we're checking for Nginx connections over maybe a certain threshold as well. Pretty much exactly the same thing, but we're doing it by application, not just the server itself. So I think we're going to wrap up there. We're going on about the 52-minute mark now. Kind of want to keep this at 45 minutes. Let me know if you had any questions what we talked about. So what I really wanted to do was I really wanted to go over really the basics of Stackdriver monitoring and go over all the different methods you have of viewing what's going on in your environment. Most especially going over how to be alerted if something goes wrong, how to set up some of those thresholds, metrics, alerts. And really, if I want to go back to our meme again, where'd my meme go? Being able to monitor everything that's going on, because if you don't know what's going on, if something goes wrong, then, well, that's not a very good place to be. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, I probably want to go over a little bit more, but again, we're trying to keep this to a particular time period. Let me know, again, at that link that Eli linked, what you'd like to see for a demonstration. Also do in YouTube comments as well. We are definitely taking a look at those. I think next week we're going to do Deployment Manager, just because we've had requests for it, and I need to get back on the ball of studying it again myself. I like the idea, the feedback of maybe learning something myself, so watching me try to figure something out, and maybe failing miserably in the process. Don't know what exactly we'll do for that. If anyone has any suggestions of what they'd like to see for a me figure something out demo, maybe, laugh at me in the process, go ahead and do that as well. Otherwise, thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to stay subscribed to the Linux Academy YouTube channel. We are planning on doing these every Thursday. Also, every Wednesday, we have our Google Cloud weekly updates. I believe the newest one is up as of right now for this week, where we go over all the latest news in Google Cloud. Some pretty cool announcements this week. Go check that out. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Again, if you are a student of Linux Academy already, we go over some of this in some of our courses. If you'd like to learn more and get certified on Google Cloud, definitely be a Linux Academy subscriber, and we'll get you certified. We get the job done. And we also have, for our free community edition accounts, I believe we have the Google Cloud Essentials. And I think we have the Security Essentials courses available for free right now. So, hey, free courses, check them out. If you like Google Cloud, definitely recommend doing that. With that said, thank you all for tuning in. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up for me. If you have any other questions, go ahead and pipe up in chat. Thank you a lot for the ideas that you're doing, by the way. Okay, for Stackdriver. I believe before Google picked them up, you were able to monitor on-premise devices. I believe as of the case now, you don't have that ability. So the only thing you can monitor right now is Google Cloud stuff and AWS stuff. You can't currently monitor on-premise device. I think there used to be kind of a hacky way you could get around that, but I don't think that works anymore. So short answer is no. Unfortunately, it'd be kind of nice to kind of have like an all-in-one thing for that. Again, thank you all for tuning in. I got to figure out how to actually stop the stream here because, again, I am doing this for the first time as well. If you have any other suggestions, we'll leave the chat up for a little bit if you want to go ahead and pipe in on there, and I will watch that chat. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next week. Later.